All right, so we are in module 3 of NCCR Core, and this one is all about hand tools. So they're going to classify a hand tool as something that doesn't have a cord or battery. So just a hand-powered tool, or you're what's powering the tool. So some of the important ones, the basic ones, I have made more detailed videos in tool time, and I'll have those linked at the end of that playlist if you're interested in learning more. So we're going to go through, I'm going to highlight some of the ones you might not be as familiar with and talk about those, what you need to know for the test, and we'll keep going and get through this. If we were in person, I'd have these all out on the table and you guys will be trying them out, but so remotely we're going to be doing this PowerPoint, and I might hold some up to show you things as we go. So let's get into it. So the first off, we're talking about hammers. Hammers are the most common tool. When you think of a carpenter, you think of a hammer in their hand, right? And so they're going to say there's different parts. A big thing to know is the difference between the different kinds of hammers. There are some, we'll see a ball peen hammer, but this is a claw hammer. And claw hammers come in two kinds. This one is a straight claw or a rip claw, and I would recommend getting one of these. They're just weighted better, balanced better, because the weight is all coming behind the head. They're easier to swing. They do make a curved claw, which is this claw would be curved way down here, and those are more designed to pull out nails. They're weighted different, so I recommend getting yourself a good straight claw hammer. This is homeowner grade. You really wouldn't want this on a job site. You want something that has a little bit more weight and just more ergonomic for regular swinging. So just pay attention when you're getting your hammer and getting the right kind for the job, because you don't want to show up to pound nails with one of these. This is a machinist hammer or a ball peen hammer. This is designed to swing and shape and bend metal, essentially. So this is going to be used in like an auto body shop or a metal working shop. So this is a machinist hammer. So it's not going to be found on the job site. This is going to be found in a shop. And it's a ball peen hammer from right here, the ball peen, the rounded part of the hammer. We got sledgehammers. These comes in different weights. These are designed to break things up in demo, but also they're designed to drive stakes or pins into the ground. So if a regular hammer is not going to drive a big wooden stake into the ground, it will, but it's going to take a lot of swings. So this is designed to do it a lot faster. They come in different weights and different lengths, and sometimes they have like a point on the end. And so this is similar. A lot of blacksmiths will use a hammer like this to bend and shape metal. It's like a ball peen hammer, but they're trying to really bend like molten metal, and they need a lot more oomph behind it, so there's more weight. So you're going to see different sledgehammers used for that as well. So it's for demo and driving stakes and pins, for the most part, is what you're going to be using one of these on a job site for. Before we get into cold chisels, I want to explain the difference of the different kind of nail pullers that they have. So we got a cat's paw. And so cats have claws, and so they scratch things out. This is designed to pull a nail. It's kind of the lingo for what this is. And so a cat's paw is known for, it has a curved hook on one end. You drive this in next to your nail, and then you can pull your nail out with the handle. So it has a claw on one end and a handle on the other. So if you have a nail puller with two claws, a claw on either end, they're going to just call it a nail puller instead of a cat's paw. But for the book, so it's nail puller if it has two claws. And then you have simple pry bars or a flat bar, because this is flat, or you call it a wrecking bar, but has different kind of curvatures, and this is to give you leverage. It's a simple machine to try to pry things apart or pull nails or pick things up a little bit. So again, just different kinds of pry bars or nail pullers. So chisels, things you need to know. It's important you're using the right one for the right job. A cold chisel is designed for masonry. So this is what Michelangelo would use to carve the Statue of David, right? He's carving this into metal, or into masonry, into stone. So a cold chisel is designed for stone or masonry. And so a wood chisel is designed for wood. Who would have thought? So wood chisels have a really sharp point. Cold chisels aren't. They're a blunt tip, and they're stronger. It's a lot more dense. Because think, if you take a really sharp knife and you hit a piece of metal with it, you're going to chip up that edge, or a piece of rock. You don't want to take something sharp and hit it with a rock, because you're going to chip and break the edge off. And so wood chisels are super sharp. Lots of times I see guys, after they sharpen them, they'll actually take it and they'll shave their arm hair off. They'll be that sharp. So they're as sharp as a razor. And they have a a angled edge, so it wedges. It's like a wedge as it peels the wood back. And a good sharp chisel, lots of times you don't even need a hammer or a mallet or anything to remove wood. You're just holding onto the handle and pushing it, and it's that sharp, it's cutting through the wood. And so there's different sizes, different shapes, and all kinds of different stuff depending on what you're doing. But you're going to be using a wet stone or a cold stone to be sharpening these. And so, again, you want to get super sharp. Cold chisel, stone, wood chisel, wood. Different punches. So a punch is different purposes. Sometimes it's to mark where you're going to drill a hole. And so you see these ones, the center punch or the prick punch here, they have a really sharp point. And so that's, if you're going to drill a hole in wood or metal, you're going to put that right on your X, your measurement, and smack it with a hammer. And that is going to create an indentation, which will help your drill bit stay centered right where you want it to go. So there's punches that are designed to, again, mark a drilling location or a screw location. And there's also, this is a tapered punch. This might be used to push a pin in a machine, to a locking pin or something, or also very similar to this shape would be a nail punch. And so a nail punch is used to drive a finished nail below the surface of the wood. And that's so you can put wood filler in it and sand it, and you can paint over it. You don't even know there's a nail there. So back in the day before nail guns, all finished nails, you would have to use a nail set or a nail punch to put them in the whole way, because if you use a hammer and you're driving that surface, you have a nice piece of furniture or trim, you don't want your hammer to leave a indentation from hitting the wood piece. And so you would leave your nail sticking out just a little bit, and then you would take this nail punch and you put that on the end of the nail and you push that below the surface, because this is the same size as the head of the nail. So they would both go in, you only leave a small little hole, no dents in your wood. So that's what a nail punch would be for. Screwdrivers. All right, it's important you're using the right screwdriver for the right size or right kind of screw. And so the history and origin of how the screws came about is it was slotted, right? They used this to keep the leverage to put in the screw, and then they figured out, hey, you can make it across and get more leverage so it doesn't strip out. And if you hear me say strip out a screw, it means the shape basically gets rounded out, the metal scrapes away, and so then nothing is able to spin that screw no matter what. There's nothing fits in there because it's just smooth. And so that's what it means to strip out a screw. So we went from slotted to Phillips, and then square was the big thing after Phillips. But now that has basically been replaced by Torx. And all these comes in different sizes. There are really small slotted, really small Phillips, or Phillips number 1, and Phillips 2, and Phillips 3. Robertson goes the same way as Phillips, 1, 2, 3. Torx, these go from 10, 15, 20, and 25, I think up to 40. They get really big. But so the numbers just mean small to large. I really like Torx. They're my favorite. Basically, the only screw I ever buy is a Torx because they don't strip out. Or they can if you really mess it up. But for the most part, they don't strip out because there's so many points of contact. It just really locks that bit in. So I really like this kind of screw. Robertson, we use these a lot. A square head if you're using a Craig jig screw that we use in class here. If you're in person, we use that to put some different joints together. They use Robertson. A Robertson is square. And then Phillips, again, is this cross shape. It's important to use the right size for the right size screwdriver. So again, you don't strip it out, because if you use a Phillips number 2 and a Phillips 3 screw, it's going to be loose and wobbly, and it's going to end up stripping out that screw. So if you're really in a pinch, though, you can use a smaller size in the bigger one if it's one size bigger, but you can't go down. A bigger one will never fit into a smaller one. If you're really in a pinch, you can, if you're careful, use a smaller into a bigger screw. So Allen wrenches, what makes them unique, or they are a 6-sided hexagon. So Allen wrench is 6-sided, and these come in metric or imperial, different sizes. These are in machines a lot, or if you get a kit from like a shelf kit or something from IKEA, it'll probably be one of these. They come in little hex keys, which looks like an L, or you can buy it has a whole bunch of them built into it, like an index, different sizes. So Allen is 6-sided, and also even within the Phillips, there's a special one, and it's called a read and print screw. And so these are just specialized Phillips that have a point at the socket base. So a normal Phillips is flat in the middle. It's basically just slots and it's flat. And so a Reed and Prince has a point in the base. So it's just, there's all kinds of different screws. And just make sure you get the right driver or right screw to put them in. So this is just saying use the proper size. Again, you don't want something that is going to not fit right and strip out the screw. So different wrenches. It's important to know different kind of wrenches. So if you ever get a job or you're working with your dad in his garage and he tells fixing the motorcycle and he says, "Hey, grab me an open end wrench," you don't give him the wrong thing. So I don't have an offset ratcheting box wrench here. That's basically just a box end that has a built-in ratchet. So the first one is open-ended, and that means there are 2 open-end mouths on the end. And so these have 2 different sizes. So if it's open-ended, one size, they're always, well, not always, sometimes they're within a 32nd, sometimes they're within a 16th of each other, depending on your kit. But so if it has the same, both are open-ended, same type, it's going to be different size measurements for different bolts. And the same thing is going to go if it is a box end wrench. So box end, this goes all the way over your bolt, and so these are handy because you can spin them in circle and they stay on really nice. These ones are tight spots you can slide in. Sometimes you can't always go down over, so just different things that you need it for. But again, if both ends are the same type, that means they're going to be different measurements. So this is a 3/4 and a 5/8. These are 1/8 inch apart. And so again, depending on your kit, depends on how different they are. Sometimes again, 32nd, or maybe like this is an 1/8. And so they'll be different measurements, same end. Now a combination wrench, which has open face and a box end, right? If it's different ends, it means the measurement is going to be the same. Both ends of this one's a 15 millimeter. So both ends are going to be the same if these are different. And that's because they want you to be able to use it for different circumstances. So different, just you got to remember that. If it's different, same measurements. If it's the same ends, different, or the same ends, different measurements. So those are your different common wrenches. And they come in metric, meaning millimeters, or imperial or standard, which would be your different fractions for inches. We also have adjustable wrenches, and an adjustable wrench just means you can make it smaller or larger by screwing. There's a screw adjustment on it. By using that, you can manipulate how big it is. These are handy because you don't have to know what size it is. You can put one on. The problem is they slide off. They don't hold on quite as good. And so something you want to know is you always want the beef of the handle, or the end that connects into the handle, not the moving jaw, but the part that is built into the handle. You want that to be the part that is on the outside rotating. And so if you can see, I'm going to put on my finger. If I'm pushing down, see how the tension will stay on the handle and on that part where there's more metal. I'm not going to lift up this way. If I have to turn it, I would turn it this way so that the direction I'm turning is always the handle sides on the back. And this is just because this is a whole lot stronger. You don't want the pressure on the mouth. They're designed to do that. So these are useful. They make really big ones. This is a pipe wrench or a monkey wrench. Here you see spud wrench. So they call them different things, but these are designed to clamp onto a pipe. Not necessarily a hexagon-shaped bolt, but a round pipe. This is what it's designed to clamp onto. And so let's see if I have a picture. I don't have a picture. But another idea of what a spud wrench is a adjustable wrench that comes to a point on the end. That's what I would call a spud wrench, because that's what, when I was working on metal buildings. So it comes to a point on the end because when you're lining up your bolts and your big beams and things, you can slide that point into the bolt hole and manipulate it to line it up so you can slide your bolt through. And so that would be what I would call a spud wrench. But so different terminologies, but it's an adjustable wrench that you can use as a metal worker as well. Socket wrenches. So a socket wrench, what makes it unique is that it ratchets. So it'll only spin one direction. The other way you'll hear it make a clicking noise. And so then there's different sizes. The wrench is always the same, and then you have different size sockets that you put on. So instead of it being like a wrench that has one size, the wrench is going to stay the same, and then you put different sockets on it to change the size. They come in 3/8, 1/2 inch, and 1/4 are the standard connection thing here. You have to make sure you have the right size socket to fit your wrench. And so to change directions, if you want to loosen or tighten a bolt, they always have one of these little clip things on the back. There might be different shapes. There might be a little lever, but that's going to determine whether or not you're loosening or tightening. And you can tell by which way it clicks versus which way it doesn't. These are really handy because in a tight space, you can move it a whole lot faster. Because when you're using let's say for example, a box wrench, if you turn it and you're within a tight space, let's see if I can get I don't have anything. So if you're in a tight space and you hit something, you have to pop this off, put it back on, turn it, and you just have to keep doing that. Whereas a socket wrench is cool. You never have to take it off the bolt. You can just keep turning your wrist like this, and you're going to be tightening that bolt. So it's a lot faster and just more convenient. Torx wrench. So a Torx wrench is designed to, it'll tell you exactly how tight you are, how many torque pounds you're putting on a screw or bolt. And so lots of machinists and mechanics, they want a certain tightness to that bolt. And so even like your cars, your lug nuts on your wheels, they want you to tighten them to a certain pounds. And so those are measuring the torque. And so some of them automatically will shut themselves off so you can't tighten it anymore. Some of them will just tell you how tight it is. So there's different kinds. And one other thing I want to show you guys is called a speed handle. So a speed handle is kind of like a socket wrench in that you're going to be putting sockets on it, but it doesn't have a ratchet effect. Instead, there's a handle that pivots, so then you can put this on a bolt and you can turn it really fast. And so it's just designed to make it go. You aren't going to put a lot of pressure on one of these. They can't super tighten, but if you have a long bolt and want to move it quickly, you can use one of these and you're going to spin it around like this, and that'll just do it really fast. So that's why it's called a speed wrench, because you're moving quickly. So this would have been, back in the day, pit stop crews before the impact wrench, using one of these things. You're breaking it loose and you're going to use a speed wrench to change that bolt really fast. Different kinds of pliers. Electricians use pliers a lot, mostly. If I think of a career that uses pliers the most, it would be electrician. And so you can see here's just a wire cutting jaw, long nose or needle nose. It's pretty much self-explanatory. A slip joint is here because the bolt can slide back and forth between tight or larger, gets bigger or smaller. And so that would be your slip joint. And then tongue and groove, I would call this a vice grip, because that's the brand. It's kind of, they made it, so it happens. But so you get a tongue and groove wrench here, and that just, there's a whole bunch of different slots that you can slide this into to make it an adjustable opening. And then you have some that lock in place. And so when you squeeze this, it's actually going to get locked there and it won't open up on itself unless you hit the release button. So a bunch of different kinds. Wire cutters, or you could think this is also lineman's pliers, the other thing that they're known for. But again, pretty self-explanatory. What it has, this has locking grooves, so it's a tongue and groove. This one has that slip joint. This one has a really long nose or needle nose. And so you can basically look at it and tell the difference. Lineman's pliers are also known as side cutters. And so you see right here, here's your lineman, and they cut on one side. They don't cut in the middle, they cut on the edge. So they're side cutters, you could also call them that.